Welcome. I'm Desiree Patno, the CEO and founder of the National Association of Women in Real Estate Businesses. Today we're joined by Sheree from the SBA and the Santa Ana District Office. Thank you very much, Sheree, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Desiree.
Wonderful. So today's segment, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about microloans. I think it's very important we talk about this because I think it's a very overlooked subject matter that the SBA actually offers microloans. And for those of you who don't know what a microloan is, those are for loans that go up to $50,000. And the reason I think that's pivotal is that personally in the real estate community, it's a difference of having to where you can hire someone, take that advantage of going into having some extra cash to go into advertising and promotions and things that you need to take it to advancing your career, that maybe not go into a complete business mode, but the idea is having a little bit extra to advance your portfolio of what you're trying to accomplish. Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about is that in the real estate community, you have, especially in the brokerage side, and we'll focus on that for a few minutes, is that you can have teaming events to where actually you're not the broker owner of the brokerage, but you're actually the team leader. You might have a broker's license, but the idea is that you don't physically operate under your own license without a broker owner above you. Okay. And with that being said, you might have 3 or 4 other agents that work with you as part of that team. And the idea is by getting a microloan, it allows you to develop into, say, spend a little extra money on marketing, hiring an assistant, being able to grow into, maybe doing a campaign or something like that. So describe to us a little bit about what a microloan is.
Okay, sure. The microloan program is one of the SBA programs that really women seem to gravitate to it more. Women typically, when they ask to borrow money, it's typically less than men own businesses. And the microloan program is a great fit for them. It is administered through an intermediary, and the SBA's intermediaries are nonprofit lenders, and they can loan up to $50,000. The terms are up to 6 years for repayment. The interest rates might be a little bit higher than some of our other loans, but it's because of the length of terms. Also, traditionally, it might be for somebody that couldn't qualify for another type of a regular, traditional type of a commercial loan. It's a little bit easier to actually qualify for a microloan program. Also, the microloan programs, the SBA is increasing them, and let's see. We're in 2016, so over the course of the next, I believe it's 3 or 4 years, the SBA is actually going to increase the amount of microloans that are done.
And there's a limit.
It used to be that, let's see, for 2015, I believe, any microlender that was an SBA microlender had to do at least 4 a year. That's not really all that many in order to be considered for the next year. Now, mind you, these are all across the whole United States. Now, this year they have to do 6 to be considered for the following year. Then it's going to be 8, and then it's going to be 10. Now, where you and I are located physically right now in Southern California, they do many, many more than that. But some lenders, maybe in the other parts of the country, are really going to have to step up their game to be able to get those, to be able to qualify for them again, to continue to do that. Now, this is a loan program that is a little bit different than the other SBA loan programs, because the 7A and the 504 loan programs that are kind of our main staple in the SBA, these are done through typical lenders that you'd be familiar with. They're participating lenders to make those loans, and then the SBA doesn't lend the money. They actually just guarantee a portion of it. The microloan is a little bit different. The microloan program, the money is actually lent from the SBA to the microlenders. They distribute their money and actually make those loans, and then they pay back the SBA. Another aspect of the microloan program, which
didn't know that. That's very interesting, because then it's like, so the SBA obviously would have a very limited capital to actually loan out to the nonprofit
There-
to flip
yes.
it back.
There is a finite amount, which
Okay.
is why they, have these certain limits on it, on who can actually, which nonprofit lenders can actually do them. Another aspect of the microloan that's different than the 7A and the 504 loans is that it comes with, these microlenders need to do some management technical assistance. So they're helping these business owners to succeed by providing maybe counseling or resources, connecting them to people that can help them in the management of their business. Another aspect of the microloan program is that there's a new program on the SBA.gov website. It's called Link. So anybody can go to SBA.gov and look for the link, LINC. And what this is, it's kind of like a matchmaking for lenders and borrowers. And the microloan program was the first to get on this link program. So it's 22 questions. And some of them, question 1 is your name. Question 2 is your
Amazing.
address.
Right.
Yeah, so you have to really be able to articulate in filling out these boxes what you're going to use the money for, and, how you want to grow your business, what your vision is of your business. And then what that does is within 48 hours you're going to get an answer back to see it's put out there to participating micro lenders that will say, hey, I'm interested, so I'm going to reach out to this person. Kind of like what they
bidding
call
process.
yeah, it's like a clearinghouse or something. But
Wow.
it's like a matchmaking. They put the borrowers and lenders together. Now, if it doesn't look good, maybe it does, you don't have a microlender that steps up, then what you're going to be sent is information on where you can get, typically our resource partners, our
Okay.
funded resource partners, like SCORE and small business development centers and women's business centers, to help prepare you for getting a small business loan.
Very interesting. Something new I didn't know about. The reason I brought that up is microloans are very, very important, I believe, in our industries, besides the previous things I was talking about, is that there's a lot of servicing companies that are scaling back their package deals that they're doing with you. For example, when you're doing property management, there's a lot of major corporations that used to have predetermined set programs out there where they do field service maintenance, okay? And then you'd also have the brokerage would manage the property and sell the property on your behalf. So what they're doing is they're actually getting rid of a lot of, and downsizing or right sizing, we call it in the industry, of those service management systems. So where you take care of cutting your grass, doing the trash out, the rekey's and things like that. So one of the things that I want to bring to the attention is to actually do a microloan to that brokerage or that broker who is handling the property, such that it would allow them to have a cash flow to go from point A to point B, because it's short term. So they wouldn't need the 6 years to pay it off. It'd be like a credit line that
sure.
would flow back and forth idea, okay? And the beauty of it is that hopefully with the assistance of the SBA, it would allow them to also scale their business in other ways, other
Right.
than just doing it on a program for the intended usage, was to have cash flow from, if you have to pay for all these services up front before you actually get the commission when you sell the property.
Right.
So it's very important.
Right.
And the idea with that is that it would then bring in the SBA into those rural areas. You would then bring into the resources and do a regional training program for that. And I really believe that for our industry, when you have 91% of all the women-owned businesses are the owner and no one else, and in our industry in real estate, to be a woman in business and to have, I'm not sure the exact number, but 96, 97% that are small businesses, when 91% is me, myself, and I, and we're in a very heavy regulated compliance issue, that's a big problem. And so by having that resource maybe as someone who's actually doing my closings for me, or someone who's doing my management for me, besides just doing a cash flow issue,
Which is the teaming?
Yes.
The team you're talking about, okay.
would really connect that on the micro end of it and really help out, because you're not looking for a full scale loan. You can get an answer within 48 hours. like you say, you're putting it out for bid and having someone actually come in and saying, hey, I want you, I want to partner with
I'm
you.
interested.
Yeah, okay.
It's not an approval, but I'm interested.
Okay,
Let's
check.
talk.
Well, you know, hey, at least
Yeah,
I got
that's
some
right.
action.
That's right.
Because if you think about that in the very rural areas like Missouri or Arkansas or places to where you might not have another home for 50 miles.
Right.
And how do you get someone to help do the contracting work for me you're not allowed to use a conflict of interest of having a family member do it? This would really help me connect to the outside world of the industry, in addition to connect to the resources that you might not have an SBA office or someone who's a resource partner right there in that area.
Right.
But this would connect them to the real technology of what we have to offer today. I didn't realize that the microloans were administered by a nonprofit, which means that it's different than the 400 loans that 400 banks that do the SBA loans, so your normal 7A and 504 programs. So that in itself shows that you're really trying to reach out to yourself, small businesses that are the nonprofits that are allocating the money on that stuff. So that's why those numbers make sense then for the six loans per year and 8 loans per year, and it still makes my mind boggle that we would a whole nonprofit would do 6. So you want to talk about attention to detail? You want to talk about catering and being vested in that person?
That's right.
That community relationship, I think, is phenomenal.
Everybody's pulling together to help that business succeed. And the reality is that the funds, the proceeds from the microloan, they can be used for all those things that you mentioned. The only things that they can't be used for is to pay off existing debt or to buy real estate property. But for all of that working capital and the paying for services, things like that, it's perfect.
Well, and that would be phenomenal because the GSEs, the financial institutions, your private entities, and even your nonprofits that are doing community outreach and doing nonprofit rebuilds for first-time homebuyers would love to make sure that the workmanship is done to the same level, have the top-notch services, maintain that property, not having have to skimp back that, maybe did I shut the water off, maybe I'm doing it myself, trying to do too much. Because one of the things that when we used to sell homes back in the day 30 years ago, here's the sign, here's the market, thank you very much, we'll see you later.
Right.
Now it's like, if you're not a marketeering attorney, CPA, insurance agent, contractor, interior designer, full-on social media person, you're not in the game.
It's so complex now.
Very complex, and I think that this allows us to really transcend to our industry and what we're doing and why it's so important. So wonderful. I think
I did want to mention one thing too about the microloan. Actually, all the SBA loan programs, they are for for-profit businesses. The microloan program does have, I believe, it's for some child care nonprofits, if I'm not mistaken, and this is just really recent. So it is for for-profit businesses, with the exception of that child care provision.
The good news is that real estate agents and real estate companies and contractors and CPAs and attorneys want to be for profit.
Yes.
So we got that covered. I think that's good, right? So you debate now with all the things, and that's one of the reasons I think the alignment with the SBA, with the real estate industry, and I'm so happy to be the featured, NAWRB being featured for women in business in the real estate sector today, is that it really is pivotal to the impact of what the SBA is align itself with the community outreach by having these different loan programs, because now you made a comment that women are much more conservative than men are, and you're right, by taking a $50,000 loan versus $150,000, and I'm not sure if our audience knows that SBA goes up to $5 million for their loans.
That's right.
That small business, $5 million, okay, and that's a big number. But we then feel comfortable that we can take things in steps to go with it. So the other thing I'd like to talk about SBA's real quick is that for microloans is what kind of cost am I looking for if I were to do an SBA loan that was a microloan? Are we looking at, if I'm going to get a loan for $50,000, let's say, and I'm going to call it a credit line for basic lack of anything else. How does that compare to, say, a credit card that might be charging me, say, 15 or 20% interest on that versus them doing a microloan? Just a
Right.
general comparison.
Sure. The lenders are going to be able to set their own interest rates, and they're typically, I believe, between 6 and 8% right now.
Okay.
So they're a little bit higher than our other loan programs, but it's because the loan amounts are smaller.
Right.
And
Time is money.
Time is money. That's right, exactly. So they will ask for that the business owner has some skin in the game, that they put some money into the business themselves. So they're not going to finance 100% of a project. So it's typically they're going to want the owner to come in with maybe anywhere between 20 and 30%
Okay.
of skin in the game. And they're going to look at a couple of other things. They're going to look at the management of the business, how it's run, who is running it. They're going to look at credit. That's it's going to be definitely a factor. And they're going to look at history, just making sure that, there isn't any skeletons in the closet. And it isn't any one thing that's going to make or break it, because if maybe one area is a little bit weak and another is really strong, then they're going to offset it. It still goes through the whole process of underwriting, that the lender goes through.
It's a story.
It is a story.
We're telling a community
right.
and what we're doing, and that I'm a good risk on the
Absolutely.
handshake.
That's right.
That I have something going for me.
And they'll help you come up maybe with options. So, maybe it means that you ask a friend or family member to put in a little bit more so you can come up with that skin in the game. Or maybe you already have a partner where that partner is is really strong in other areas, and they're on the paper with that person. So, they're going to work with you.
Very good. One of the things that you brought me up, a question is that, and our final question is, if I go back to the story that I'm a teaming member and I am my own broker, but my license is hung. In certain states, you can have dual brokerages, okay, that you hang it on your own and hang it on someone else. Am I considered a ownership, even though I file my taxes return and I own my own company, but my license is hung under someone else's license, even though I have the appropriate license to be on my own, but I opt to hang my license under another brokerage? Am I allowed to get a microloan, or do I have to do it, or is that, how do you distinguish as, obviously a CPA you can't do that, or a contractor you can't do that because their licensing is different by the Department of Insurance. But for the brokerage, do you know if that's permissible within that?
I believe it depends on how your business is structured with
Okay.
the IRS. So how you set your company up, whether if you're a sole proprietor, if you're in a partnership, if you're a corporation, and you are the CEO or the managing person
Okay.
of that, or president, somebody that is making the decisions.
So we would be good,
Yes.
because I know as a teaming partner that you would set it up, and that would be the same whether you're doing it independently or not through your brokerage. The question I had was, is that how you hang your license? Like an
Right.
attorney, you must be a principal partner. I know through the SBA, through the workings of NAWRB, we've had such an incredible run of dealing with the relationships. Oh, do you know so and so is thinking about doing this? Or do you have a trade association? Or do you know you
that's
have a
so
team
true.
program?
Trade
and-
associations, that's another one. And it isn't just your typical chamber of commerce in a city or region, but there are lots of different ethnic chambers of commerce as well. So
Yeah, your
there's
diverse spend that really
Yes,
helps up your
absolutely.
different things, and that's where women in business, real estate, is really playing right now, and a very big note, because until a couple of years ago, diversity was all about minorities, and it was all about your multicultural minorities, your African American, Hispanic, and Asian, and now we're seeing more that's just more level of minority, we'll call it, and women owned, because the federal government, recognizes minority women, service disabled veteran, and hub zone. And we now, as women owned businesses, are now starting to come into light of being, the force to be reckoned with, that we're coming up and saying, okay,
Right.
we need to raise the cream. And I think that's why we're so thankful to have these videos and programs that the SBA is recognizing, and then themselves realizing when you made a comment saying that we broke the ceiling for the first time ever, the 5% federal contracting
Yes.
going to women-owned
It was
businesses.
a happy day.
Very happy day. We were in DC, and we're one of the wonderful 11 organizations that are listed on the national website for women entrepreneurs that actually were part of that movement and continue to be part of that movement.
And by the way, the goal is 5%, and we passed through that. So
it's now the base. It's no
Right.
longer the ceiling.
That's
So
right.
our floor is 5%, because we have a lot of work. Because if you think about it, we're the fastest growing, we're the number one growth, we're the number one bringing wealth to the economy. We should not be at 5. We should be in at least the 30-40%, or why not 50%. So with that being said, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
And stay tuned. We have other segments on behalf of NAWRB, and thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you,
thank
Sheree.
you. Thank you.